Thank you for that kind introduction. Merci pour votre invitation et pour cette occasion unique de vous présenter la nouvelle politique féministe d'aide internationale du Canada. And you all worry why I speak French. I'm a proud Canadian. I have to speak French a little. So it's wonderful to see so many of you here in this room and to know others are listening in from around the world. We are all partners in this challenging endeavor. And if we are to end poverty in the least amount of time possible, if we are to meet the SDGs, and if we are to empower women and girls as they should be, evidence and knowledge sharing must be an integral part of our decisions and policies. Of course, not all governments hold this view. But in Canada, we have experienced what happens when decisions are made for political or ideological reasons and not driven by evidence. Since I became as the Minister of International Development a year and a half ago, it has been clear to me that gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls must be at the center of everything we do. To tackle the root causes of poverty, especially if we want to see lasting solutions to persistent development challenges. And that doesn't just matter to me. It matters to Prime Minister Trudeau, who is a strong feminist. So what do we mean by that? Canada recognizes that only by pursuing gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls will the world be able to achieve all of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It cuts across all areas of development. Following extensive consultations with thousands of stakeholders over the last year, last month, I delivered on my mandate to refocus international assistance on the poorest and most vulnerable, as well as on fragile states. Canada's Feminist International Assistance Policy is designed to align with Agenda 2030 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in a collective effort to end poverty and leave no one behind. It explicitly recognizes that if we cannot hope to accomplish this ambitious agenda, if half of the world's population is not included in decisions, in power, in opportunities, and it is to everyone's advantage to amplify the voices of women and girls, because we know that when women and girls can choose their own futures and contribute fully to their communities, everyone benefits. When women are educated, they are empowered. Their lives change. They tend to marry later, have fewer children, provide better health and nutrition for their families, and earn more income than women who didn't have the advantage of schooling. And we know that when legal and social barriers that discriminate against women are eliminated, remarkable changes happen. Women have access to capital. They start businesses, get decent jobs, and they invest their profits in their families and communities. Though this understanding is not new in development, applying it effectively and systematically across all of our work will take determination and persistence to accomplish this fundamental shift. As it stands, more than 150 countries have laws that actively discriminate against women. More than 15 million girls are married before they turn 18. And 225 million women don't have access to the contraceptive method of their choice. As a result, more than 22 million women and adolescent girls have unsafe abortions every year. And let's not forget that 1 in every 3 women experiences physical or sexual violence. Canada continues to address the needs of women and girls in fragile and conflict-affected states, particularly through the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. Canada has taken concrete actions in improving the health and rights of women and children by supporting the full range of sexual and reproductive health services. Canada recognizes that women and girls are powerful agents of change, development, and peace. In fact, we are counting on their track record of transforming their families, communities, and economies. Of course, sound public policy needs to be there as a foundation for change. I believe that in this area where I believe that this is an area where Canada can make a difference. Canada's role in the world has historically been that of a global convener in areas such as peacekeeping, human rights, and climate change. My colleague, Chrystia Freeland, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, recently laid out Canada's foreign policy priorities. First among them was the need to support a rules-based international order and all its institutions, and to find ways to strengthen and improve them. She said that Canada is now being called by virtue of our unique experience, expertise, geography, diversity, and values to play a pivotal role in creating an order for a new century. And Canada's new Feminist International Assistance Policy is a big piece of that commitment. We were also well aware that people in Canada and our partners around the world look to Canada for leadership, sound policy, and support. It can't just be about public money, though. Canada's international assistance envelope will exceed $5 billion in 2017-2018. On a global scale, official development assistance represents $140 billion annually. But there are limits to how much it can grow. To achieve the SDGs by 2030 will require $5 to $7 trillion. And while increasing government's contribution is essential, we also need to seek out new partners and new investors. We need to be more innovative. We may even need to take a few risks, backed up by sound monitoring and evaluation. And finally, we must use our financial contributions to leverage additional investments. Recently, Canada allocated $300 million to the newly established Canadian Development Finance Institution in Montreal as a concrete avenue for leveraging investments in developing countries in areas like green energy and sustainable agriculture, empowering women and youth-led businesses. Returning to Canada's Feminist International Assistance Policy for a moment, 3 core elements emerged from our extensive consultation process: human dignity, the empowerment of women and girls, and building local capacities. We concluded that empowering women and girls can achieve all 3, and it is the best way to reduce poverty and create a more inclusive, peaceful, and prosperous world. From now on, gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls will be integrated in all our programs, including humanitarian support. That's why I am here in London for the Family Planning Conference. En mars dernier, j'ai annoncé 650 millions de dollars pour appuyer les droits et l'accès des femmes et des filles à toute la gamme des services en matière de santé sexuelle et reproductive. Cet engagement illustre le leadership du Canada envers l'égalité des genres et le renforcement du pouvoir des femmes et des filles. Les projets que nous appuierons vont répondre à la violence sexuelle et fondée sur le genre, incluant la lutte contre les mariages forcés, les mariages d'enfants, ainsi que les mutilations génitales féminines. This morning, I announced that $241.5 million of the $650 million commitment will be directed towards 19 initiatives focused on sexual and reproductive health and rights. And 65% of that amount will go to Africa. In fact, I come to you straight from a trip to DRC and Ghana, and just before that, South Sudan. I feel that if we are to make progress for women, it is crucial that Canada re-engage in Africa. That is one of the reasons why Canada is dedicating 50% of our bilateral international development assistance to sub-Saharan Africa within the next 5 years, with an emphasis on women and youth. And that work has already started. In Ghana, for example, we are helping farmers to thrive as the whole country becomes less dependent on food imports through our programs. We know that women make up the majority of agricultural workers in sub-Saharan Africa. So, investing in this sector makes a major difference in their lives, their control over resources, and their access to economic opportunities. When we recently helped women soybean farmers in the Upper West region, their yields increased by 380%. Ghana is just an example. More broadly, across the world, we will base our programming on 6 areas of action. The first, and our core area, is gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. When we started to work on this priority, we began by looking at the numbers. Historical analysis of Canadian aid spending in this area revealed that less than 3% of Canadian investment were actually targeting gender equality and women's rights as their primary objective. This was not consistent with our ambitions to do better and our commitment to a feminist approach. Going forward, Canada will devote no less than 15% of its bilateral international development assistance to initiatives that directly target gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. On top of this, we will increase our attention to integrating gender equality across all of our work. In the past, some 30 to 50% of our investments were completely gender blind. This is also changing, so that by 2022, 95% of all programming will contribute to robust gender equality outcomes. That includes a new $150 million program over 5 years dedicated to promoting women's rights and advancing women's leadership and gender equality through local women's organizations. The second focus is human dignity, through the effective delivery of social services, including health and education for poor and vulnerable populations, especially those coping with armed conflict and natural disasters, or lack of access to essential services. Emergency humanitarian assistance, as well as development projects, can help to bring often overlooked sexual, reproductive, and psychosocial healthcare, as well as potable water, nutritious food, and quality education to these people. The third area is growth that works for everyone. Canada will support women and girls so that they can develop their skills and gain access to economic opportunities, decision-making, and leadership, for example, through technical and vocational training and entrepreneurship. We will also promote social inclusion, the right to work, the right to own property, and access to financing for women. Fourth, Canada is committed to helping the most vulnerable countries adapt to climate change, mitigate impact, make the transition to low-carbon emissions, and improve water management. We will help women improve crop resilience, access water and natural resources, and participate in decision-making on environmental matters. The fifth area of action is inclusive governance. We believe that democracy, responsible governance, peaceful pluralism, and human rights are crucial to peace and development. As we learned during our consultations with more than 15,000 stakeholders in 65 countries, civil society are the ones who hold governments to account. That is why we will help women participate more fully in political life, strengthen women's power and access to justice, and create an environment that helps them participate in civil society. The sixth and final area is peace and security. Canada is committed to reducing threats and helping stabilize fragile states and those affected by armed conflict. We want to see women lead in peace building as leaders and beneficiaries, as they have successfully done in places like Colombia. We're not only insisting that our partners deliver on gender equality, we are going to walk the talk in our own approval processes. From now on, if they are to get Canadian funding, our partners will need to consult women locally, involve them in decisions, and make sure they are being empowered throughout the project implementation. Our intention is to be more flexible and to invest our resources where Canada can have the biggest impact in reducing poverty and inequalities. We will be working on improving our processes and funding mechanisms to make them more innovative and better adapt to needs on the ground. And we will need to keep learning from collaboration with our partners to reflect lessons learned in how we do things. Think tanks have an important role to play in contributing to the evidence-based and holding governments to account. The expertise and experience of organizations like yours can help speed up the transition to gender equality. Think tanks like ODI can help to build global networks and keep the conversation going with what you are discovering through your approach to implementing the SDGs and tracking development progress. I will be looking to you for new and innovative ways to advance development. I know you have already given some thought to how Canada can deliver results in the global development context. And we have much to learn from you about what works with women and girls, innovative financing, and lessons learned in emerging and fragile states. In fact, we have already been using your expertise to find ways to improve humanitarian policy and practice in response to conflict and natural disasters, and to be more innovative in the humanitarian landscape. And now, I look forward to hear from my colleague. Thank you.